What is going on, you guys? It's your boy, the Psyop Cyclops here, and we're back with episode 85 of the video game therapy series. It has been a minute. It actually has been quite some time. I used to say that after it's been like a week or two, but it's been like 45 days or something. So it has been a significant period of time, and I don't know. I could give a lot of excuses here, but that's not really the point. I don't. This is my thing. I can do whatever I want. So there's no excuse. I don't really care if I do these or not. But I will say, having not done these, it is pretty. I do feel like there is a huge difference between my all the stuff going on in my head and what I'm doing outside. I'm not really sure how to articulate that properly, but basically, there's this does kind of function in some ways as a therapy session for me. At least just getting some words out into the void. I think I have some big hang up on like wanting to make and do stuff. Like by nature, like someone that likes producing stuff, and I honestly think a lot more people are. I think that's partially my theory on why people are a lot more miserable now, because no one makes anything, and no one. It's not like an incentivized. Like we're so consumerist that we don't make anything. And so I am going to blame consumerism for that part of it, but I definitely just feel a lot better psychologically having done something, and as not proud of these productions as I am, because they're not really, I guess compared to the quality of other things, this is pretty shitty. And I'm not pretty unabashed about that, but it does feel good doing these, and yeah. But my physical location's been in flux. That's my other excuse, really. So I'm kind of a little more settled in now, for at least for the next couple weeks, maybe. So we shall see. So yeah, I spent a lot of this time reading books and meditating on the higher things and higher things of life, to much of the contemporary person's dismay. But I've kind of boiled it down. This is just a working theory here. This is not any kind of strict axiom I have, but I think there are three like modes of, not really say dealing with the world's problems, but like, I don't know, three ways of like kind of living life, sort of, in some ways. And I don't really, maybe you can think of a better way to frame this, but this is just my take or my thing. So the first way is to just kind of ignore anything that isn't beyond your scope. I don't mean in a sense where it's like, don't like, you can't. I just mean this in more of like an escapist sense, where it's like everything is just kind of, at its core, an escapist thing, right? Like your work is the most important thing to you, even though so you can just kind of ignore anything that goes on, be outside your bubble, or or even just not even outside your bubble, really, even within your bubble. Like, suppose there's, I don't know, deep unmet psychological needs. You're just going to just kind of ignore them with, with work or with drugs or with, other people, like, always talking to somebody, just finding any way to just kind of plug the hole. And what otherwise might be maybe like a lack of self-actualization might be a good way to put it, where you're missing some aspect of, actualizing yourself or confronting yourself, or maybe you chose the wrong quote unquote career and you hate yourself for it, but you're not going to address that. Like, you're not going to ask difficult questions. So I guess maybe the overarching premise here is asking difficult questions, what to do in difficult questions. So the first thing is just to ignore it, right? And find any way of ignoring it and just kind of avoiding the question altogether. Like, the questions aren't, because these questions are in large part impractical, right? It's not really helpful to keep asking, the things I do every day, are they worthwhile? Are they meaningful? What's the fucking point of doing any of this? A lot of ways it's like, those are impractical questions, just get up, go to work, go to the doctor, all this like, that's kind of like I don't know, the remedy and for a lot of people. And that's not really one that I think is, not the way I would choose. The other way is to address maybe these deeper questions and thoughts, and I don't know, the hard questions, the hard stuff. But take them very seriously, right? And this is, I think, where I would put a lot of ancient, not really contemporary philosophy. Contemporary philosophy, I think, is just kind of gross. I don't know what people, it's all kind of monetized in some sense, these kind of morons. And they also blend a lot of, like, it has to be a holistic theory, right? It can't be just a theory of man and his purpose. It has to have an economic component. There's just a lot wrong with contemporary philosophy as I see it. So I don't. This is just more suppose like the ancient, more ancient. And I'll say really ancient being anyone over 100 years ago. Just again more root kind of poetic, very wishy-washy type philosopher where maybe they write and ruminate a lot on difficult questions and I don't know, that's like their whole thing is that so right now I'm reading Ralph Waldo Emerson and I would put him in the category even though he lived in like the mid 1800s or something, but he was very much like you read his writing, it's eloquent in that sense, but it's kind of Victorian and but he writes a lot about like the deeper soul and kind of is like kind of pseudo religious in this. I mean, I think he was like a Calvinist Christian, but I don't. It was his writing is very much kind of spiritual in its philosophy. It wasn't like this overly logical. We have to use quantum mechanics to justify God kind of thinking. But he took it very very seriously, and as a result, it's kind of I don't know. It just kind of leads you to despair. That's been my my take. Is there's not really a way of again asking very very difficult questions without becoming overly nihilistic or existential, where you're kind of like what's the fucking point, and not like what's the point in like any kind of joyous way. It's not like it's that relaxing. Just because anytime you would do anything, you always ask, well, what's the point, and then you're kind of left like, well, I guess there isn't really a point. So then you're just kind of like, well, fuck. Now, okay, like I could do this, and you're like, well, what's the point? Okay, well, maybe I shouldn't do that. Like, well, I could do this. No, what's the fucking point? Okay, maybe I should. It's like there's kind of no point in doing anything. And so but I think that only happens if you take it too seriously. And the third way, which is what I've kind of come to embrace here, is you can ask these difficult questions, and again you can always keep asking, what's the point? But then you don't really take it seriously. And I don't mean to like treat your life as a joke and just like jump off a bridge at your first chance. But I think this more accurately portrays itself in in the clause in saying comedy is the purest form of philosophy. So I have a lot more respect now for, I guess, not comedians in general, because I think most comedians are fucking stupid. But just like comedy as a way of kind of not really coping with, because I don't really view it as a cope, but as a way of addressing like the more difficult questions instead of taking it serious and like trying to like decipher it. You just kind of you kind of pull joy out of the absurdity, and you can like analyze the absurdity, and I think that's what the serious philosophers do, and really anyone that I'll use philosophy here as a kind of a blanket term for hard questions, and like harder answers, or like really not harder answers, impossible answers, right? It's not really like true good questions. Philosophical questions aren't answerable. It's not like there's like some mathematical formula for stuff. At least it's something that isn't just like an abstraction on an abstraction on an abstraction that like makes sense, such that we can't like there's just I don't know. But I don't know that I think I've kind of come to kind of embrace humor a lot more so. So I suppose what this means is you can consider this my formal introduction to comedy. No, I won't really be doing anything actually, but I think I'll let myself be a little less serious in these videos and kind of riff off and, spout off about bullshit more. And, because I talked about bit humor being like, just like a funny, like my sense of humor. Last time, I think the example I used was like gay Trump or something, which is a funny bit. And if I could do the Trump voice, I would probably, I could do a riff on that. But, I think like just kind of embracing and kind of riffing off those bits is maybe more of what I'll lean into, because I've been kind of hesitant to do that. Not that I've tried to be so serious in these videos, but I think it is, I've definitely leaned serious, not whether or not when I was trying to or not, but it's been, I haven't, been super unserious in these videos. Not to say that I'm going to be laughing and like just talking about nothing, because I think it's very much worth asking these difficult questions and wrestling with them. But I think doing so in a humorous and in a funny way is the way to do it, instead of like this because ultimately you become very, very cynical if you. And this is just again my kind of draw from it is that I've noticed I've become more cynical the more I've thought about this, but I think they're good. I don't think I shouldn't. Like I think a lot of society just ignores the question and they're like, well, you're cynical because you keep asking the hard questions, and like the more questions I ask, just the more cynical I become. So like their answer is, well, ignore it, and I'm like, well, no, I don't want to do that. It feels wrong. It feels more wrong to do that. So I think I won't, I obviously won't stop asking hard questions. I'm not going to, turn this into a hot button political topic talk show or some bullshit. Like, most of the other crap that's out there, they just talk about nothing. So I'm still going to be asking difficult questions, but I think I'm going to allow humor to come in a little more strongly. And I don't think I'm funny. That's not the point. Of course, I think that I'm funny. I don't think other people think I'm funny. So there's like that's that part of it that but again, the whole point isn't to entertain somebody. It's not even to entertain me really. I guess in some ways it kind of is to entertain me, but it's not. The point is not like there's very much no viewership on these. The point is not to do any of that. It's to kind of give myself a free space to create something. And if it ends up being funny for me, then great. If it doesn't, then so what? That being said, I'm not going to lean into like, kind of corny shock humor or something like that. Or definitely not like, political humor or anything like that. I truly don't care about any of that. I think I'm going to keep the topics on the same thing, but I'm going to allow, perhaps I'll allow comedy to be a little more prevalent in these. So I guess expect a certain higher percentage of these videos to be me laughing at myself. Because that's kind of what will end up happening here, is because I'll say something I think is funny, and hopefully I can, at least try to articulate what it is that's so funny about it to me. But because that's kind of what I've noticed is I don't want to be this like disparaging, cynical, kind of sad sack of shit my whole life. And I've noticed that I've become very cynical the more I've like seriously wrestled and embraced kind of these hard philosophical questions. And I also refuse to just ignore them and treat them like they don't exist. I think that's even dumber than, laughing at them. So I think there's also a line, like I think it's very easy to look at someone that makes a joke of something, perhaps they I've even joked on this about like suicide, it's not that I don't think suicide is funny, right? It's not like the point of it isn't like it's hilarious that this guy blew his head off, but I think it is like dealing with the absurdity using, kind of pulling joy out of an absurd situation, right? Because ultimately, if you frame anything in a particular way, it ends up sounding ridiculous, right? So instead of like, oh, the person, turned the gun on himself and shot himself, it's like here we have this like, pseudo intelligent monkey who's gaslit himself and then acquired a gunpowder powered fire. It's like if you put everything together, like what the hell, like. This whole situation is ridiculous, I'm not saying to take everything out of context to where it's funny, but in some ways that you can, right? You're like, that's kind of what I guess humor allows you to do, is to pull everything out of context. Because, instead of viewing something as a man taking his own life, the monkey is, pulling this strange kind of weapon or some sense, on himself, right? And if you look at that through the lens of like a butterfly, or I don't know, some, dumb, not butterfly's probably not an intelligent enough creature, but like a dumber creature, like a dog. The dog doesn't really see us as human because it doesn't have conception of what a human is. It doesn't even have language, right? Even barking isn't, unless there's some secret language of dogs that we don't fucking know. Barking is not a language. It doesn't know what a human is. It just sees like this thing that it gives us food and interacts with us and like, smiles and frowns and does whatever and like makes noises. And then here it has this like weird, kind of like, I don't know, L-shaped, with something, again, it wouldn't be able to articulate this, but I think if you're looking at, somebody killing themselves through the eyes of a dog, it kind of at some point becomes like this ridiculous, like, what the hell is this dog looking at? Whereas us, we would see it as like this sad thing. And I'm not saying to make a joke out of everything, because not everything is funny, but everything is funny. That's what I mean. Everything can be funny. And, it's kind of your decision whether or not to laugh at it. And I've not laughed at things enough to the point where I think I'm going to start laughing at stuff more. And it's not because it's funny. It's because everything is funny. And it itself doesn't have to be funny, but it is funny. So I don't know. I'm going to try to take everything. And I've never taken myself seriously, to be honest. But I'm going to take everything else, including myself and every situation that I'm in and other people are in, a lot less serious. It's not to make a mockery per se. So I hope it's, it'll probably border on insulting, because I think humor tends to do that. It's not like something has to be kind of the butt of the joke. You can make fun of dogs, but that's kind of in bounds because, dogs' feelings are quite simple, and I don't even know, they forget stuff or something like, everything, like a joke has to kind of have a butt, right? I can't really think of a joke that isn't that isn't just like a play on words or something, because those aren't even funny. It's like, or like, something ironic, like the fire station burning down. But in that case, like, a fire station that's like, supposed to protect against fire burns down. Like, that's the irony, and the irony is funny. But like, also the fireplace that's the butt of the joke, is like that building burned down. And, someone's, oh, well, what about the people that are in there? It's like, you can make all kinds of jokes. And like, the funny joke, there is somebody that's a target, or like the butt of the joke. And it's kind of up to them to be offended or not. And so hopefully I'm the butt, myself, or my experiences are the butt of the joke most of the time, so that it's not, I'm not like, making people cry. Although I'd be impressed if I was able to make people cry, like, or get angry or something about what I'd say. But honestly, anyone can get angry about anything. Again, given a ridiculous enough context, people can find things to be angry about. So there are things that I think are funny. Speaking of which, the other day I was laughing to myself about, somebody was like, oh, you should, you like being outside, and you could like using your hands. You could be, a firefighter. I was like, the first thing that popped in my head was just like me, just like, not even, whether it be an accident or not, I don't know, but I'd fill the gas tank with water, and then I'd fill the water hose with gasoline, and then, you show up 40 minutes late to a fire, like, sorry, some jackass put water in the gas tank, and then when you try to put the fire out, you just burn down the entire fucking neighborhood. It's like, it's just a stupid bit, and it's like, it's fucked up that is, I don't know, my sense of humor is fucked up. I've been clear about that, but that was like the first bit that came to my mind. I was like, yeah, maybe I won't be a firefighter. I don't think that's probably a terrible idea, but no, I don't know. I mean, I don't know why the fuck. I mean, what a ridiculous, like, I mean, it's like, it's just as reasonable for me to be like a puppeteer or something. Like, I don't have to have this like career. Like, I don't need to be, whatever I don't need to like have a name to call me, right? Oh, you're a tax attorney. Like, I don't want that. I don't want someone to be like, oh, he's a tax attorney. It's like, is it okay for me just to not want to have to like have a title of some kind, or, some occupation, because it's just boring. Every conversation is just the same fucking thing. Oh, what do you do? Oh, I do sales. I do SaaS sales. It's like, okay, what do you sell? Oh, we sell software that helps businesses sell stuff. It's okay. Well, great. You're very interesting. I'm dying with intrigue on what the fuck. Like, I don't care. I don't want an occupation. I don't want people to describe me as like, oh, he's a SaaS salesman or something. I just want like, oh, like, I also don't want people to be like, oh, he's like a nice guy. I've already riffed on how insulting nice guys is. But I mean, I don't know. I just think even descriptors in general, people are, they generally are like insulting, to me at some level, just kind of describing, even just trying to describe somebody, with like, even a sentence, I think is insulting. I think if nothing else, you just have to meet people and talk to them, and then, talk to them about, of course, not about what their dumb occupation, because then everyone just becomes an occupation. That's what kind of fucking, it's the most boring thing ever. I don't give a fuck. Like, oh, today, just tallying up who I talked to. I talked to 2 SaaS salesmen and a tax attorney. I don't, no, I guess why we have names, because they can represent a lot more to us than just like, what you do. Otherwise, it might as well just be a fucking number or a prisoner. Right, at that point, it's like you're just talking. It's like everything's just a prisoner. It's just, oh, I'm the tax attorney. My number is whatever. It's like, I don't want to. I refuse to exist in that sense. Not to say that no one can ever describe like anything I've done, but like not what I do. Period. Like, I don't want to be just a firefighter. Period. That's my whole gig. Like, that's everything I do is centers around. And I don't know. Maybe I don't think I'm more complex than anybody else. So I think other people are selling themselves short who assign themselves one thing that they are. They're a firefighter, they're a coder or whatever. I'm a software engineer. That's what I do. That's just my thing. That's all you do. That's all you're capable of. And like, no, obviously it's like trivially no. And it's okay to say that, well, I make money as a software engineer. I guess that's fine. But it too often, I think it just monopolizes, the conversation into things that I personally don't find interesting at all. So I just would always steer clear of that kind of behavior. So I don't know. I kind of just despise that whole thing. Anyway, I'll move on to something else. So I don't have I don't have a second monitor anymore. Not because I don't have one. Like, I still have the same one. 2 monitors I'm trying to simplify everything. Everything is so complicated that I'm trying to simplify everything. And I don't mean like to be a monk. I mean, I've Googled like I've Googled whether they let you into monk. You know, they probably wouldn't let me into to being a monk. I don't have the Zen or whatever. Too energetic probably for monks. But but no, like I want to simplify things. Everything's so complicated. I can't look at two screens at once, and I also don't want like I don't want to be the person who just always has something dumb or something moronic on their second monitor. You know, they're on a Zoom call and they just have SVU or some bullshit on their second. Like they're just never. You can't focus on two things at once. So why have two monitors? Like I know people need to have it for like Microsoft Teams or whatever, or their email or something. Like no, I'll check my email and then I will remove it. Like I don't want to have it open all the time. Like I think having stuff on all the time, being on call all the time is part of like why it's so miserable to, exist and like, I guess exist soberly in corporate America. I guess you can be, if you're drinking the Kool-Aid, you can be fine, checking. I love checking email. You can be a LinkedIn influencer and you could, love the corporate grind or whatever. But I think most sane people that are like, corporate America is fucking moronic. This is dumb. You need to have you can't be on call all the time. So if your work lets you throw your phone away, then throw it away. Don't have it. So anyway, like I don't know, it'd be like a separate activity. Okay, I'm going to check my email. I'm going to focus on it, get it done, and then get it out of the way. So I've reduced it to one monitor now, but that also kind of kills me to be able to look over and like see the other little haikus I've written to like talk about. So instead I have a note card here that I've like just copied off somehow. So hopefully I don't, I'm in the mood to talk about at least one of these and I can riff off them. Otherwise, I don't know. I'll just fucking talk about nothing. So anyway, oh yeah, here's this. So I don't know. I'm not saying that I've come across as a conspiracy theorist at all. I hope that has not been the case. I hope you're like, wow, this guy's, some neo-Nazi conspiracy, whatever. I guess that's on you if you believe that, actually. But I do think, I don't think things are a conspiracy per se. Like I think, so for example, one of my opinions, the education system's a fucking joke. It's an absolute fucking joke. It's just a lesson in, it's giant Simon Says. And I even joked about that in my last video. It's Simon Says. It's how many iterations of Simon Says and how good you are at following directions. And then like just, not even at like questions are not rewarded, like you get rewarded for answering questions, even if they're wrong. Like you can just answer every question wrong and still probably get an 80, like on any kind of school assignment. You don't get rewarded for just asking difficult questions, even ones that you can't answer. Like if you ask a question, you then have to answer it. Anyway, it's just the whole education is a fucking joke. Like it's not really meant, I don't think, to drive like good, virtuous inquiry. It's kind of designed to see how much you're willing to, how deep you're willing to saw into your own foot, really, for a bag of cash, kind of. And that's pretty reductive and pretty cynical, but I don't really think the education system is good at any point, even, university, it's all broken. And I don't think that is some giant conspiracy either. I'm not like going to point at some person or some, minority group. Oh, it's the Jews. I'm not going to do any of that because that's not helpful. I don't think it was a giant conspiracy. I think it is instead like emergence. So I'm like, if you are like critical of my opinions, don't call me a conspiracy theorist. Call me like an emergence theorist. And what I mean by that, and I've kind of written very briefly about this concept of emergence, but like the overarching question is, can a group of good actors working together towards something good accidentally produce something horrible or something bad, right? And so like I'm not ever gonna like point at every middle school teacher, in rural America and go, oh, you are the problem. Like it's like, no, obviously these people are good actors working in good faith, doing the best that they can. Like there's nothing, like they are not the issue, right? And like also I think just generally pointing at the system and then like finding who's ever in charge is also kind of the problem, right? Because I think if you're just thrusted in charge of this giant system, like you can't really just throw everything away because it's, you can't really, you can't be a chaos muppet and get that high up. Like I think if you are somebody that would throw it all away, you're never going to get the VP of education position. Like you have to be someone who's willing to like allow the thing to survive. But that also means that like, the emergent theory of it is that like there's emergent, like the conspiracy isn't arisen or isn't like premeditated. It emerges from, again, like the systems in place. Like they have this law of, I can't remember the name of it, but it's like the law of bureaucracy where you have two kind of overarching groups of people within an organization. Like the first group is the group dedicated towards like the goal, the ends of the goal, the organization itself. So like an example of teachers and the education system, it is the teachers who are like, their goal is to teach, is to do what the fucking school system is supposed to do, is to teach people. Now, the pedagogy itself is flawed, but that's not the point of it. But then you also have people that are dedicated towards the like existence of the system, like the kind of the, I guess the purest bureaucrats or the administrators are the ones that kind of facilitate and make sure the system exist. Like they exist such that the system can be proliferated, right? It's to grow and expand and at least continue like the system itself. None of them are like incentivized with like deciding whether or not the system's ends, like the system's original intention or ends at all, like are still that, right? There's not like people that they employ to like, are we fucking it up? Like, no, the system would never employ somebody like that. Like, you'd never employ people that are there just to be like actively hostile towards the mission, because again, the people there to designed to keep it existing would not want to hire somebody that is like, okay, this person is, actively is against it. It's like going to Microsoft and being like, yeah, I fucking hate Microsoft. My goal is to tear down and destroy. I mean, I don't even know. It's like, because that kind of sounds like management consultants. Just go in and lay everybody off. But no, it's you're not going to hire people that are like directly adversarial to your group, your ends as an organization, even if the organization is bad. Like for example, I think Microsoft is a shitty company, but I don't think every single person there is a complete piece of shit. And like, I just think the what is produced by the company ultimately is antagonistic towards people. I'm not blaming any particular group at all. I'm not saying it's the security team. I'm not saying it's any particular team, maybe besides the Windows 11 team. But like, because they're all, good actors working in good faith towards, what otherwise is like what sounds like a noble mission, but there's not people there to question whether or not like, are we doing this right? Are we, and because like they're not rewarded. Like if anything, like, it's like the homeless industrial complex. It's the same theory. It's like, like a homeless shelter, homeless thing that whatever, an organization towards ending homelessness, is never going to ask for less money, which would be an indication of the thing working. Like they always ask for more money, which then kind of creates like a need for them to be more homeless people. And it's not because I think everyone that works there is bad or like that you're a dumbass for working there, but ultimately like this, there's not people there designed to like shrink the system. Like that's just not how like growth is seen as good, is like, progress is growth. And so, because of that kind of reductive thinking, we are on these giant, like enormous systems that are just towards growing there. No one's ever like purposely shrinking things, unless it's like a failed thing. So I think that's part of why things emerge. Like even government, as much as I hate, like, I guess a lot of organized government in any sense or politics, I'm not going to point to, a group of people or like, or some subset, of people that ruin everything and they're the problem. It could potentially be that everybody, is not. I mean, most of them are kind of pieces of shit. I think that's kind of a given at this point. But even in a world where they're not all pieces of shit, I still think the system itself doesn't include like, okay, like doesn't include people to like, keep the checks and balances in place, in terms of the system itself. It's like you need like kind of a meta team, like a meta awareness. Obviously not the fucking meta team at Facebook, but you need like a meta team of like, is the organization itself like, is it stupid? Like, I don't know. Like, what direction is it going? I don't know. You think it's more like meta thinkers, but that's not really, the system would never employ something like that. So I don't know. I'm having a hard time articulating exactly how to say, I guess, that part of it. So like the emergence theory of it, but maybe you can kind of get the point of what emergence is. So things just, like, I guess, malicious actors or malicious, activities or malicious actions arise or emerge from systems. Systems aren't designed to create malicious actors. In the same way, like they say the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So I said that before. I just think that, I don't believe in conspiracies per se. I'm sure there are like actual conspiracies that have happened. I don't know what they are, and I'm not going to validate or invalidate any particular one of them. But I do believe in emergent, like things that emerge out of otherwise like benign or good things, right? it's like all this, the cells in your body are all good, they burst, but like cancer still emerges in some sense. I don't mean to just, liken some systems to a cancer, but I guess that's kind of fair. I don't know, different, moving on, I suppose. Um, this is more anti-progress propaganda. So sorry if you're big into more technological solutions. But this is not that. The question is, don't we kind of already know, what like the good life contains? I mean, don't we kind of already know how to like, live a good life? I mean, or do we not, And then, if we don't, if you're like still searching on how to live a good life, you know, is the answer like, an app or like, an embracing of these technologies and things? So I guess that's kind of where the skepticism for me lies. On one, I think that we do kind of already have we have a lot of the basics down of like how to live a fulfilling life and like, not like off yourself, because people like for the longest time, humans didn't willingly off themselves. And that's always my biggest beef with people that like care about, I don't know, like more, oh, 4 people died, or, one person was raped and murdered. Like that, I'm not saying that's not sad, but there are like millions of people that just like, not even sure what the exact numbers is, but it's like hundreds of thousands of people every year just kill themselves on purpose, and they're trying to. It's like it's not even like, so it's like people, no one cares. I'm not saying that everything should be against suicide, but I think the fact that there's some like big, not even, it's probably, I think that's the leading cause of death at, at some age groups is like, voluntary killing themselves. Right. And I think even also a lot of overdoses that are just, they just overdosed on drugs. Those are probably also just like deaths of despair. Right. I think if you can group them in, because you don't really know, like that's the thing. Other thing about gun violence is like, oh, well, we don't, the guns are killing people. People kill themselves with guns, right? If I wanted to kill myself, I'd buy a gun because it just makes sense. And like, well, like then if you didn't have the gun, then you're like keeping me hostage, and I have to stay alive because I don't have the gun to kill myself. Plus, if I really wanted to, there's like 1,000 ways to do it. And then people do. People still, like, despite guns being inaccessible in certain places, people still find ways to kill themselves, which I think is the bigger problem. Is not people killing themselves and like removing the means by which people kill themselves, but asking, why do people want to kill themselves? People just, is it the chemical imbalance theory for everyone needs to be drugged up all the time? It's like, I don't think so. I think for the longest time, humans weren't like, I'm going to kill myself. It's like, no, we killed other stuff and then ate it to survive. Like we wanted to survive, but now there's lots of people that don't want to survive. And I guess there's some argument, like a euthanasia argument, be like, well, if they don't want to live, then let them kill themselves. That's kind of fucked up a little bit, but I also think we're not really self-selecting for the best people. I think there's a lot of very, very, very talented and like kind of the best of, the humans whose genes we'd want to continue that kill themselves. I think and I'm not saying IQ is any measure of even reasonable intelligence, but I think the people who have like these off the charts IQs you never heard of because they kill themselves like before they're 20. I mean, it's like, oh, here's Billy Bob who had an IQ of 400 who jumped off a bridge at like 15. It's like, okay, well, why did that guy want to kill himself? Well, you can just make up anything and just, he's crazy, or, you can come up with excuses, but I think it's worth asking why so many more people now want to kill themselves than ever have. And I ask, like, well, we kind of know already like what a good life is, because we've lived, what I would say lives worth living, because people have lived them for millennia. And I think now we're moving away from lots of good lives in exchange, like, for what, right? I think there's sort of people that are still living the good life. And I think it doesn't involve, like, we're not missing technology to live the good life. And the good life here, I'm just kind of being vague. It's like, you can live the good life, like on a farm, even with like, a dead kid or something. Like anything can be part of the good life. I'm not saying everyone has to have this like perfect thing. Like there is like failure and trauma and death. It's all part of like the good life even, right? That's all kind of factored in. But since we already kind of know what a good life is, like fellowship, food, maybe some kind of like reproduction and family, like there's like this biological success element to, the good life. Like, are we getting further away from like more people having the good life? Are fewer people having that? And like, why is that? Is that comparison? Is that the true thief of joy in the good life? And why? Because people think that they need to be Robert Downey Jr. or Leonardo DiCaprio or something in order to like not want to kill themselves, which is just expectation managing, right? I think that's part of what I think we should do as a parents, or like, I'm not a parent, but as people who parent things, managing expectation and like, having realistic expectations for stuff is part of why people are so, I don't know, miserable, is that they have ridiculous expectations for stuff, and like myself included. And I'm not saying that means that we should all just expect to be homeless pieces of shit, but I think there's a fair amount of like, you know, people understanding kind of the market dynamics and also not exposing themselves too much to people that, things that are unrealistic. It's like, like for growing up, for example, I love basketball. That was like a sport, and I was a few inches taller. I could have, played a little further, but I love basketball, but it just didn't work. Like coaches never like, were never like, oh, like, we want him to shoot, like there wasn't just, it didn't work, but if I was like so, gaslit into thinking that anybody and any planet could play basketball, then I'd be miserable my whole life just thinking about why didn't I fucking play basketball? It sucked, because I would expect, if I expected to play basketball, even though like, it was a kind of a point of maturity. Okay, I'm not going to play basketball for a living because I'm just not 8 feet tall. And, things just didn't work. Maybe there's an alternate universe where it did, but I didn't. And I'm not saying that we should convince more kids to just give up on their dreams. Because even basketball is a very like way more dead set than something intellectual. Like I think telling somebody they can't be a physicist is really stupid, because really anyway, you can learn anything. I think your brain is so malleable. You're able to learn pretty much anything given the correct environment. You're not able to grow any length of height. Like you just can't. Like you're way more genetically limited to like sports. It's like an obvious thing. I think in sports, it's very easy to manage expectations. You're like, okay, this guy's 6'8" and jacked. Like, of course you're not. Like, Duncan, you're 5'4", or whatever, or where the kid is. It's much easier to manage expectation there, where it's like if you tell somebody intellectually they can't accomplish something, or like you can't be a musician, they see like, even part of it is the people that are famous now are fucking dumb, and like the musicians, I'm like, this is music. The hell are you doing? This is terrible, and it's like, oh, anyone could be a musician. It's like, yes, I guess anyone can, but like ultimately, like unless people sit around all day listening to, it's just like I don't know, there's an issue of supply and demand. And I don't think the answer is throwing more consumption at the problem so that more people can be musicians, because people are inundated listening to other people's shit 24/7. And you can break in that way. I just think you should be less external expectations on things. Like other musicians require a certain audience of size, of sufficient size and really sufficient money. Like you can have an audience of size that never gives you any money. And I think, removing a lot of the expectations of other people making you happy is a problem. I don't know. I heard this through the grapevine. It's nothing to do with me. I don't even know why I'm over listening to this. It's just, I'm fucking nosy. But it was like this 60-year-old woman that is, like divorced or something. I don't know. But, like her idea was like, oh, well, somebody's going to sweep her off her feet and like, make her happy. And like, like I thought at a certain point, like at 60, don't you kind of like give up? I'm not saying you should, but isn't it a little unrealistic to like think, are you a millionaire, or do you have some kind of like, what's the bait that's going to like get you on the hook for like some, strapping young lad to like, oh, saddle up and marry a 60-year-old, I don't know. I don't know what this person could, maybe she is a hot actor. Like, if you're Margot Robbie or something, I'm sure anyone will date you at any age, but I just, kind of an average person and, otherwise average credentials, it's a little unrealistic to think that, things will work out like that. And that's not to say to have no hope in that sense. If you're allowed to aspire, but I think expecting it, like it's different between like hoping and expecting. Like I can, let's say I want to be a YouTuber. Like, oh, I want to be a YouTuber. You can kind of hope that you want to be, you can hope that you blow up. You can kind of hope, but like expecting to is a recipe for a miserable existence. Like I could hope anything but expecting to is you're going to be miserable. Like, I'm sorry, you're going to be absolutely miserable. So again, I think it's fine for this 60-year-old to hope that, she beats this, and maybe she will. I think the hoping is fine. Like, you're allowed to hope, but I think you should separate that from expecting, right? You can't expect to just be paid $1 billion to, I don't know, wash shoes or something. You can hope that, like, it's the king of Nigeria wants you to, whatever. I don't know. But regardless, I think there's hoping and expectations should be a lot different. But anyway, I think, as I guess in the advanced part of society, if we really want to, I don't know, I think we should think deeply about what the good life contains, right? And then always ask, are we making this, more or less accessible? Are we or even just like, even for ourselves? I think a lot of people are so capable of living, what I and probably they would consider to be the good life, but they're just in their own way, like even like billionaires, like I keep using Elon Musk or Zuckerberg as an example, but like, Elon Musk should have every ability to, like, he can realize any dream he wants. I mean, he bought that stupid Twitter and made it, XX and X or some shit. I don't give a shit. I don't care. But the guy is obviously miserable because he spends all day fucking tweeting. And the guy could obviously, in my opinion, retreat, buy a big farm, do whatever he wants to, like, to live his good life. And I imagine if he still has, so much aspirations to do things because he is delusional and hasn't really questioned whether or not it's like the good life for him. The good life is everyone living on Mars, which it's not going to happen, buddy. Like, I know you can hope that, but, like, don't expect that to happen in order for you to be happy. I guess he has the ability to dump money into it, but I think he's also stomping on a lot of other people's dreams. In like the same way, it's like, yeah, I'm sure the CEO of Uber has, like, intentions to do grand things. I'm not saying you're not allowed to hope that happens, but also you're just like, you're making people, like, you're creating slavery. Do you know what you're doing? Like, your company is aiding and abetting in slavery behavior. It's like, it's just slavery with one extra step, pretty much. It's like how you're just fucking up other people's, like, chances at having a good life, for your unrealistic, dumb sci-fi expectations, right? I mean, I hate movies, but I keep missing way too many pop culture references. So I've started letting myself watch a few of them. And I mean, I've missed nothing. I mean, these movies fucking suck. So sometimes I want to watch Ready Player One, which it just pissed me off, kind of start to finish, right? It's a dystopian movie that's set in Columbus, which, I mean, should give you the. I mean, also, some people don't think it's a dystopia. I think, like, Zuckerberg saw that and was like, "Oh, everyone should live in the metaverse." Like, we're in Ohio. Like, I think it's fair to say that this world's fucked up. Everyone's living in, like, trailer parks or something, everything in the metaverse. But, like, the MO of that movie is that this lonely autistic man's going to save us. It's like, what the and also he didn't even do that. All he did was just, like, save one person, and they got to, like, eat grapes or something in this giant mansion. Everybody else is still, like, like a digital VR slave. What the fuck are we doing? But, like, I bet you there was some element of inspiration for, like, the dumb metaverse from, like, that movie. And it's just like, and it's just poisoning your mind. I'm like, what a good life is. That's why I hate movies. It's just propaganda. You see, like, a Marvel movie and you're like, well, I want to be Iron Man. That guy's fake. He's not real. Robert Downey Jr. is like a former cokehead who's, like, I guess, like, kind of attractive and, like, good at acting or something, and, like, he's not Iron Man. Like, you're not going to come out of a cave with a full set of armor, willing to take on the U.S. military. Like, no, if you were locked in a cave, they would just blow they would carpet bomb the whole area, right? It's just unrealistic. Like, you can't fly, you can't have lasers out of your eyes. Like, an autistic man will not save us with a VR video game. Like, can we just, and he also didn't even do that in the movie. Like, I don't know. I think it's just poisoning people's expectations of what their lives can look like. Because it's kind of the wrong, it's just setting a way too high upper bound on even, like, aspirations and hopes, right? I think, like, even, like, hoping that an autistic man will save you, which I guess is like a different movie that I'm thinking that I imagine exists, right? It's, it's this, where it's like, I don't know, people, maybe it's a side point. People have way too much just confidence in, like, the genius of man. And I'm not saying that there aren't, like, genius men, but I think it's much better to have, like, a realistic, like, every person is, like, a fundamental flaw kind of thesis on humanity. Like, humans are fundamentally flawed. Like, we're just not, like, not superhuman. Like, no human is superhuman, right? Like, even Beethoven, was, I guess seemed superhuman, but it's like it all kind of becomes technical. Like, I think the deeper you look into anything, really, it becomes, very deeply technical. which is unfortunate, I guess, if you want to look like an Iron Man, but like if you realistically wanted Iron Man to be real, you have to look into the like technical details of how all this happens, and it just doesn't exist. It's just not. That's not real, right? And then also like removes all the other parts that are improbable, like the person not being like a pedophile or a rapist. And I don't know. Now people are like just so aghast at like so many people are like these horrible people, in real life. And it's like, well, you guys are morons. You guys are romanticizing these people that a like don't even exist beyond this dumb screenplay and this emotionally charged film that is like there's no background music in the real world, like you know that, right? And so actually I watched a good movie. Actually, I'll kind of end this on saying there's a good movie that I watched, and I actually I hate movies, but I actually enjoyed this one. I think it was well made, and I don't need to watch it. It doesn't have rewatchability thing, but it is a good movie. But it was No Country for Old Men, which is like the story of like this psychopath, like this guy kind of comes on. I'm not going to explain the whole. Just go watch it. It's a good ass movie. Well, anyway, there's no soundtrack, and I think that's part of the reason why I even liked it was because it was just silence, or like like the sounds of the desert, birds chirping and shit, which is like that's what you'll hear if you're out there. Like you're not going to hear like this like no, you're not going to hear any of that. It's going to be dead silent. Like nobody walks around and plays that like in intense moments. Like if you're getting a divorce paper serves to you, you're not going to hear Beethoven's symphony playing in the background. It's like you're just going to hear silence. Right, and it's gonna be deafening silence that will fill your ears, and not a symphony of whatever. It's just funny that people think that their movies, their lives are like these stupid these Disney movies. It's like, what the fuck are you doing? Like it's just not. That's not how it works. Like, you're not a talking candle, or you're gonna kiss a bear and it's gonna be a hot man or something like that. It'll probably be like a fat incel or something. I don't know. Anyway, I just think it's we're missing that. But anyway, the movie was good. For for many other reasons, despite it just not having a soundtrack. But it also just kind of it played on like the absurdity and like the role of like fate. And I think that's the other reason I liked it, was it wasn't so like superhero-y, right? Because I think even like Ready Player One, which is I might be a shitty movie, just the premise is dumb. Like it's not like, yeah, the CGI is good, I guess, but like I watched it on double speed. I watched it on triple speed, actually. It wasn't double speed. I watched it on triple speed with subtitles, because I can't do this like serialized drama music and like it's the same shit. I know what dramatic moments are gonna stop and slow, and you're gonna zoom in on the guy's lips. I don't get out of here. I don't want to see any more of this shit. I'm done with this fucking drama. Like I don't need these dramatic, like, let me experience a drama because it's a dramatic, not because there's loud ass music playing. Like it's obnoxious. Anyway, like the thing is, like, I'm sure there's plenty of equally losery, moronic, average looking dudes that are also strapped up in their fucking, like, this person's not like, he's just lucky. Like, we're just kind of following on a lucky one that like won this dumb challenge, and like all the chips somehow perfectly fell on his lap. Yeah, I'm sure there's thousands or hundreds of thousands in this dystopia that are also doing the same thing, and like, they're just not lucky, right? So we're just following with the one lucky person around. I know it's fun to think of us as the lucky person, but statistically we're not. And I think that was a great part about the No Country for Old Men, is that like, he's like, no, I'm not gonna like, I don't care if you're like, I'm just gonna kill you. Like I don't care if you're the protagonist. So it's like everyone's got, no, not everyone has to be happy and survive. There doesn't have to be a good ending. There doesn't have to be like, statistically that's what we're going to follow around. Follow around the sad stories and like the average story. Like, to me, I think it was just, it painted, it wasn't an average, story. I'm sure like, not everyone has to, finds $2 million and has to run around from a serial killer or whatever. But I think in terms of how it would end up, like in all the universes, most of them you would just die, right? Like you wouldn't successfully run away and like get the girl and you'd be on a boat driving. Like, no, you would die in like, I don't know, 99.99% of them, And it's fun for us to think about the universe where we are Tony Stark and we are, whatever, but it's not. It's just not how it works. There's most of it's, you can hope, but it's not, you can't expect that to be the case. So maybe that's just my beef with movies, that it just paints an unrealistic picture on things. And maybe people more different people than me can like properly disassociate like, reality from expectations, and like hoping from expectations. And I think you can hope as high as you want. Like, I can hope anything. But kind of expecting and like, being sad that stuff doesn't work out in this perfect way is like just a recipe to be miserable your whole life. And I think that's, I'm not saying that's why people are killing themselves, but I think there's a potential aspect of that in like this this crisis of despair that we kind of have as a society. So I don't know. That's just kind of my leading theory on the whole thing. But I guess the last thing I'll end this on, I guess the last thing I'll end this on. I have a new insult for people. Just calling them an untrained AI model. I think it's funny. Just there's all this AI bullshit going around. And I'm not very bullish. I think people that are overly bullish on it are the new snake oil salesman of the day, and that's also just like a killer career move to do what I'm doing and speak out against it. But it's a good thing this is a nameless, faceless new comedy podcast. Actually, not even a podcast. I'm insulted when this is called a podcast, even though it kind of might function that way to you but to me, it also doesn't really function as a podcast or like therapy in that sense. I don't really know what it is. It's kind of an empty canvas every day. It's a modern day canvas. Instead of just like me painting and like being very, impressionable. Oh, what did he mean by this painting of, an apple on top of a horse or something? I can just legitimately come out and say what the fuck I'm talking about, right? And I can disseminate it across. You don't have to copy the painting or like move it around and someone's got to look at it. No, you can just listen to what I'm saying and I can try to articulate the best I can. And that's like what I'm talking. That's like my art kind of thing. So I'm not saying that I'm an artist in like a good sense or like I make good art. I don't. But this is just kind of a modern day canvas for me, and I paint on it. I don't really paint on. I shit on it. Is what more accurately is me. Wiping my ass with this canvas, and then you're listening to it, so that's on you. So anyway, I also can't even see the time. So normally I would go for like 50 minutes or 52 minutes, and then try to wrap up whatever thought and pinch it off. But I can't even see the time that I've been recording. So I honestly don't even know how long this has been. It could only be like 45 minutes. So maybe I'll go for a few more minutes. I had to try and make sure I hit the time. So, but no, being an untrained AI model is a new insult of mine. It's just funny that you'd be trained on nothing. And so you just have no information about anything. I imagine, a completely untrained model, I guess you have to train it like on English, like on its base, like its base state. But I just mean like you're not a model that's like specifically trained on any kind of things. So you're just like, machine learning model is just going to spit out garbage, or maybe you have like a low context length or something. I don't know. There's probably a lot better insults I can come up with than just, you're an untrained AI model, but I don't know. It doesn't really matter. I suppose the last thing I'll talk about, if I'm going to speak about autistic people saving us all, if Zuckerberg's our big savior, like in Ready Player One, it's this lonely loser who's made a video game. It's like, no, first of all, there's no way he would have coded that whole thing. It's like, dude, he must have had so many people making all that shit, like all those Easter eggs. It's like, no, that's not, it's just no one can make all that. It's not even realistic. It's like, it's the equivalent of me having 40,000 episodes of this. It's like, I have to do that it's just not possible in a lifetime to even like be talking. I'd have to talk at quadruple speed, be recording 24 hours a day, like of coherent. It's like, it's just not capable to produce that much in a life. Like you can't make that much. It's like with the game or whatever, I don't know, world or whatever. There's no way that like, yeah, he might've like made like the base engine, like, in Java or something bloated, but there's no way he did all that himself and like nobody knew, right? Also, the worst sin of the whole thing is that I'm sure it was all proprietary software and nobody could read the source code. And so no one knew sure it was a virus installed on everyone's computer. That's probably why the economies are so terrible in those like dystopian, Columbus or whatever this fuck this dystopian said, is because the guy was all proprietary software. And so really Ready Player One is just a giant warning, don't let Microsoft keep growing. Stop using it, refuse proprietary software. No, I just think it's funny that I hate the trope of like this autistic person will save us all. And I don't know. I suppose it is what it is. But anyway, I'll wrap it up there. Actually, I hope it's been reasonable time. I guess the time's going to be more erratic on these going forward. But I'll try and get back in the groove of things just because I do have a setup that works now, at least. Meaning I can play and talk. Honestly, the biggest barrier as of late has just been playing Minecraft. I haven't wanted to play, and I haven't opened it in like literally the 2 months or whatever since I don't really want to do anything in the world either right now. I just kind of, I barely even want to just mine this, but I guess I have nothing else to do. But anyway, wrap it up there. So thanks for watching. Peace out, and I'll see you next time.